Well, I'm here today with Judith Emanuel and Trevor Hopkins at an event which is Winning Ways in Walkden, and we're just getting set up here for people turning up. Very, very interesting event about not so much about how people stopped smoking, but how people didn't start smoking in the first place. Can you tell us, Judith, how we got to this point, and then a bit later explain a bit more about what we're going to see in the day?
The event is being hosted by Salford Overview and Scrutiny Committee for Health, Wellbeing and Social Care. And I'd done a little bit of work with them before, looking at how we could maybe think about looking at things from a solution-focused, strength-based approach, rather than always looking at problems and being a bit punitive. And they got really interested in this idea and working more with their communities and decided that they wanted to do something on smoking. So then we had the challenge of, well, how do you look at smoking from a sort of strength-based point of view, which didn't seem very obvious at the beginning. But once we got into it, it became really evident that if you started to look at it from that point of view, you got a very different story. So that, for instance, in 1948 in this country, 48% of adults were non-smokers, whereas now it's 79%. I mean, what an amazing success story. So we started off... sorry, I've completely lost it now. And I think that the real thing is that when you start looking at it from this point of view, you start to see the wood rather than the trees, the whole picture. Because one of the other things that was really interesting was that it says, when you look at the statistics, that the main change has been about people who've been lifelong non-smokers. And we very rarely look at those people. We tend to look at the people who are smoking. We do lots of research on the people that are smoking and the people that give up. And we know very, very little about what it is that enables people to be lifelong smokers. And particularly we're looking in an area where there are perhaps a few more smokers than elsewhere.
And Trevor, this is perhaps a rather different approach. You're with the Local Government Improvement Agency. What's different about this? I'm hearing looking at the whole community, perhaps thinking a bit more about what's the real problem before you jump in with lots of solutions.
Yeah. I mean, I would have said we're not even looking at what's the problem, because I think the problem's well documented. I think what we're saying is what assets, what strengths has a community got that might help it to address an issue like high levels of smoking. And I'm just really excited by this work. One of the things we've been doing is collecting stories from local residents and listening to some of the stories told by people who've never smoked in communities. And I'm fascinated by some of the things that people have told us about the reasons why they never started smoking. And I think we've got a lot to learn from these sorts of stories.
So Judith, during the course of the day, what are we going to see? Give us a little bit of a preview.
I think, carrying on from what Trevor's saying, that one of the really important things in this is trusting that the people in the room are going to have the solutions. So we've got together a wide range of people, people who work around smoking, people who live and work in the area, people with strategic responsibility, councillors, people who work in the area. And what we hope to have is a sort of slice of the system of people that are going to make a difference to this issue. We're going to start off by having a timeline called Smoke-Free Lives Have a History. We're going to ask people to tell their own stories and anything else they know about services and things that have happened that is about the history of smoke-free people, starting from 1600 to the present day. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have some talking heads. Half a dozen people are going to present their own stories, the stories that we've collected that Trevor was referring to. We've got a lot of quotes as well around the wall. What will then happen is that people will sit in groups of 4 and they will see what they think are the core things that are working in the area. Because that's what we can build from, is knowing what works. The two groups will move together. they will identify the winning ways. We will then come up with a list of winning ways. After lunch, we hope that people will build on those winning ways to identify the future that they want to create. And Trevor will take us through a very exciting exercise where people will be asked to write a script of what they want Walkden to look like in a few years' time, where it's more smoke-free. They will then be acting out or describing what they've said, and from that we hope to develop a statement of what people in this room want to create for the future.
Fantastic.
The final exercise will be a speaker's corner, where people will describe actions that they think will lead from the best of what we've got now to the future that people want to create. And hopefully people will go away with a buzz to do it.
So, Trevor, this sounds a really creative way of using facilitator consultants to release the capabilities in the community.
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, you know, my view is that the role of the facilitator and the consultant, as Judith said, is just to allow a community to think about the issues themselves and to come up with their own solutions, because, you know, our solutions aren't the right solutions for somebody else, and communities themselves will develop, if allowed to do so, will develop a series of solutions, will have a vision for what that community wants and where that community wants to go. And our role, I think, in improving their health is to help them to do that.